Hi Flosstube! Welcome to my channel. My name is Doris, also known as Windy Bay Stitches. A lot of you may have seen me on Instagram. I've been out there for a while sharing things, and I've been watching Flosstube for at least 2 years or more, and this is my second video. And in my first video I kind of explained who I am, and also mentioned kind of my rationale for finally joining in, which is that I wanted to support the Flosstube community, and also that I wanted to say thank you to all the other folks who take time to make videos, to share great projects, and also to share all the great finishing tips, because I've learned so much, and I've used a lot of those tutorials and tips from folks like the Twisted Stitcher and the Real Housewives of Cross Stitch and Stitcherista with some of her scrapbooking inspired finishing. So I wanted to be able to say thanks to those folks, and also be able to just join in a little more and maybe start to make more friends online. So one of my other goals, I guess, with Flosstube is to keep my videos pretty short, because I've definitely noticed there's a lot of videos are getting very long, and there's just so much great content, and it's hard to have enough time to sort of get to know other video makers when the videos are super long. So I'm trying to keep mine fairly short, and they're going to be pretty fast paced too. So if I do go too fast, or if you have any questions, or want more info, just let me know, and I'll be happy to reply to questions in the comments. So for today, I have a whole pile of things to share. I've been doing a lot of finishing of smalls for the last couple months. I shared in my first video that I'm in the process of moving from Virginia to northern Ohio, northeast Ohio, and I'm filming from Virginia, where we have our house on the market. It's been a little slow to sell, so we're patiently waiting, hoping for the right buyer to come along. So I'm in my pretty empty craft room, and a lot of my stitching items are actually in Ohio already, so some of the things I'm going to show you today I don't have patterns for, but I'll try to at least name the designer so that you have some info. So let's get to it. Okay, I'm going to start with this little fob. I actually showed this in the first video, but I didn't have the pattern handy to show you, and I do have it now, so I wanted to show that to acknowledge it's by Shepherd's Bush, and it was actually a kit that came with the little B button and the threads and so forth. So Shepherd's Bush bee scissor fob is that one. Another kit that I showed last time that I was intending to do is this little, it's actually more of a sewing project than a embroidery. It does have a little bit of embroidery. It's this kit by Heather Bailey, and I did actually finish this. It's this little turtle. Super cute. Mine doesn't look as nice as the one in the picture, but there's a little more wrinkly on the feet and so forth, but I think she's pretty cute, and she's a pin cushion, so she's hanging out with me on my desk now. And I have lots of other finishes to show you. And I have a list, so let me run down the list. Okay, so another one is, it's actually, I'm going to say this is a Save the Stitches. It's this little needle book, and this was something that I picked up in a thrift store in Ohio, actually, and it's a little kit by Thistle Down Threads. And this was something, someone had started it, they'd started doing the stitching and then abandoned it, so, but the whole kit was there, so I finished the stitching and then I assembled the needle book. And it's pretty simple and sweet. It has felt inside for needles, so that's a fairly recent finish, and a Save the Stitches. I have a whole box of little guys. So I've made a lot of small pillows over the last several months, and a lot of the stitching is these are really simple patterns, small patterns, and I stitched these, a lot of them actually in the car when we were driving back and forth from Virginia to Ohio, and then I made them up into little pillows, as you'll see. So this one, I don't have the chart here, but this one I know, it's called French Country Owl, and it's by JBW Designs, and it's one of their fun patterns that has the little images kind of hidden inside the larger image. And this one I finished with, I believe it's homespun on the back, and then just the button and the floss bow on the front. It's pretty simple. This one I think is a Lizzie Kate. I definitely don't have this pattern here, and I actually, unfortunately, I think I actually lost a couple of the patterns. I think I tucked them inside a book and then I donated the book, so I'm kind of feeling bad about that. So anyway, Bloom, and this one, simple pillow again, and it has a little bit of ribbon trim glued on the front. And then another similar style, the little mini sampler. This one, simple pillow. This fabric is actually was in my daughter's bedroom when she was very young, only a little girl, and she was like three years old and up, and she's in her 20s now. So, but it was fun to use some of that fabric to put on this sort of old style mini. Another is this little patriotic finish. Again, just really simple pattern on a scrap of Ada and simple pillow finish with a bright red print. Okay, and then we have, let's see, I have two Prairie Schooler minis, and I do have the charts for these. So the first one is this one, a friend is a gift you give yourself, and this one I stitched on, I think this is an even weave, and did just a very simple pillow finish again. And then this one is Welcome. And this one I actually finished on as a flat fold. I used the techniques partly from the Twisted Stitchers tutorial for how to do flat folds, but it's not a flat fold, it's just a flat finish. One thing I'll mention that is, in terms of materials, is I started using something called comic board. This is what comic board looks like. It's just a stiff paper that it's a little heavier than cardstock. It is literally used for comic books to, if someone's reselling comic books, you use this to keep the book flat and protected, usually with a sleeve over it too. One of my friends in my EGA chapter mentioned that she uses this for finishing things that she wants to give structure to, and it's actually really great to work with because it cuts very easily and it is stiff enough to give structure, but it doesn't add much weight. So I've been starting to use that more for my finishing. So that's what I used here. I also used kind of the Priscilla's choices as far as fabrics to bring out the colors of the pattern. And it's also got kind of that scrapbooky feel to it, where kind of layering different patterns. With scrapbooking, you might do this with different pattern papers to emphasize a photograph. So it's the same technique of using patterned fabrics to emphasize the stitching. So I did 3 layers. I did the stitched piece on comic board with a layer of batting on top of it to make it a little softer and thicker. And then the next 2 are just comic board with the fabric, and I put an extra layer of comic board on the back to make it stiffen so that I could glue the ribbon into it. So just a simple little welcome hanger. I did a similar finish more recently with this pattern. This is something I just stitched in the last couple weeks, and it's called Out Flying by the Sampler Girl. I stitched only a portion of it. I couldn't actually figure out what the owl was sitting on top of, and so then I decided I really just liked the witch. I wanted to focus on her. So I stitched the witch and her broom and the words Out Flying, and then I ended up cutting it to this shape, and this worked really well again with the comic board since I could measure and cut the angles. And so I did comic board with batting, and then just comic board with fabric on the back. And then another fun tip that came about was that I had these Halloween, they're basically stickers that I bought, I think last year when they were on clearance. They came in a roll, and it's actually quite a wide sheet of stickers that are, it's fabric, texture, or ribbon, but with adhesive behind it. And these actually work great for this type of finishing because it's flat and it is actually a paper type surface, so I was able to adhere the adhesive part and still have the edging show just the way I wanted it to. And then layering it, I was able to put the little hanger on it too. Okay, and then I did a similar finish. I can't remember if I think I did show this as a whip last time, this little stitched piece. This was a Lizzie Kate kit that was given out at a shop many years ago, and I picked it up at a thrift store. I did similar finishing on this, although I think I used foam core to make this piece even thicker because it's such a low count fabric that it had. It's just heavier looking, has more texture to it. So I made that part thicker. And then I did 2 layers of comic board with the fabric, and I used another type of, again, it's actually a scrapbooking embellishment. It was from this card that I had from a long time ago, and I was able to just run a real thin bead of glue and then tuck that furry ribbon in there, and I think it came out really cute. So I actually have a Halloween tree, but it's in Ohio, so I'm hopefully going there next week, and I'm going to bring these 2 and add them to the tree. Okay, so moving right along, those are my, oh wait, 2 more sort of smaller finishes. And these are both from Facebook groups. So I recently had joined the Candy Cane Stitchers and the fall group, Pumpkin Seed Stitchers, I think it's called. And there's some nice free patterns out there. This one, I'm sorry, I should have looked it up. I can't remember offhand who this one was by. I did post this on my Instagram a while back too. This one I did the complete flat fold, again using Lana's tutorial and with the rickrack, and I'm really happy with how this came out. And then I did one more Halloween finish that was from the fall group that's out on Facebook, and this was a Lizzie Kate. And I think this came out really cute with just simple pillow and then the twine around the edges. Okay, so that's a lot of my small finishes. I do have a couple slightly larger ones, and this one, I just finished this yesterday. I found this old trivet it didn't have the original tile. It was just empty in the center. I found this at an estate sale in Ohio a few weeks ago, and so I did a similar layered effect. I used the comic board with that same fabric that I used on the owl, and then glued the pattern. I think this is a Little House Needleworks. I don't have this chart here. I think it's in Ohio. And then I just tied on some acorns at the bottom. So I think this is really cute. And my one other finish that's larger is, it's this pattern, which is like the garden with spools of floss in it. It's a really pretty pattern. And this is my finish, and this is more Priscilla inspired. So this one I used foam core, which gives it a little more thickness, but also kept it really lightweight. And then I glued on the little flower pick. So I think it's really cute. Unfortunately, I can't hang these where I'm living right now because our house is on the market and we have everything very minimal and no personal decorations anymore. So I can't hang them here. I'm gonna take them to the Ohio house and hopefully put them up there somewhere. So let's see, that I think is that's all my fully finished objects. That's pretty good, right? So that was a lot of small stitching, and then having a good amount of time here in Virginia to do the full finishing. So I'm glad to have that stack greatly reduced now. So I have a few whips to show you. Actually, this one, I actually have 2 finishes that aren't fully finished objects. I showed this one in my first video, and it's just it's a little card kit with the birds. It's a Jan Lynn pattern. It came with the card, and here's the birds all finished. The card is pretty. It has actually embossed holly leaves around the edge, so I think I'm gonna actually take some chalk and lightly color in the embossed leaves before I mount this in there, and I think that's gonna look nice. And another whip that I mentioned in my first video that I actually did finish, well, I finished the stitching on per the pattern, and that is this commemorative sampler that is for my chapter of EGA. And I mentioned this was in celebration of our 35th anniversary, and I finished all the stitching. I think it came out really pretty. It's got very nice colors. And I've got a frame that, just a flat board type frame that I'm going to mount it on, and it's actually a little bit longer than the piece. So one of my friends from the guild who actually designed this, she suggested that I add a little bit more to the bottom, which I think I might do. I think I'm going to put my name and the year on the bottom at least, and then maybe one more row of border, and then I'll get that mounted. So there's that, and then my actual whips. I'm going to show you 2 today. This one I showed you before. It's this. It's a sampler pattern, Butternut Road by Told in a Garden, and it's actually the actual pattern is called Provence Sampler, and that's the picture of the finished piece. And show you. I've actually made a lot of progress on this. I find this piece is kind of addictive actually, because it's just so simple and kind of rhythmic. It's a lot of repeating type stitching, the alphabets and the borders and so forth. So that's where I'm at on that. And this one is on linen. I think it's a 28 count. I don't know who the manufacturer was. And the thread I'm using are, it's Weeks Dye Works Cayenne is the color. And I think it's just got subtle variations in it, in the tones. And I think it's working really nicely on that linen. So that's my larger whip. And then I have one other small whip, which is this Halloween Biscornu. This was a free pattern by Janie Hubble Designs. It is super cute. And I finished the front, or the top of the Biscornu. And I'm working on the back. So I've got another bat and then some skulls to add in there, and then I'll be ready to sew that up. So I think that's gonna be really cute as a Halloween small. Okay, so that's it for my finishes and my whips. And the only other thing I thought I would share today is a little bit of plans. So I'm going to keep working on these, but there are a lot of fun events that are happening in Ohio, northeastern Ohio right now. There's actually a big show that started, I think today, that's called Ohio Mart, and it's held at the Stan Hewitt Mansion, which is, I believe, a property that was owned by the Firestone family. And I may get there this weekend. If I do, I'm going to try to go to the Ohio Mart because they apparently have a needlework show and competition that's part of that. So hopefully I'll get to that. But if not by the weekend, I'm going to go early next week to Ohio, and I'm going to take part in this. And I'm excited about this. It's called the North Coast Tour to Stitch, and it's essentially a shop hop. I actually ran into someone in Maryland one day, and I think she mentioned this, and I looked it up, and I found that in September they were just starting to sell the passports for the tour. So what it is a list of, there are 8 shops that are participating, and they're all within, it's a total of about 6 hours driving if you do the whole loop. So Akron is around here, and then it goes up north towards Cleveland. There are a couple shops up that way. There's a shop that's right on Lake Erie called Claire's Stitching Post, and then it swings kind of to the west and starts and south, and there's one shop here and then another shop down here, and then it swings down and over to Columbus, and then from Columbus just back up through Canton and then Wadsworth. So 8 different shops. I'm gonna try to probably stay 1 or 2 nights along the way and kind of make this like a little mini vacation, and so that I can get to see some other things in Ohio. Especially interested to see the area around the lake, and apparently there's some nice kind of small towns over here. There's one called Troy, and then Columbus also looks really interesting, so I want to have some time to spend there too. So that's my upcoming plan for something to do next week and take a break from being here and trying to sell this house. Definitely ready for that. So I think that is all I have for you today. Thank you for watching and supporting the community, and I hope everybody's having some nice weather and enjoying fall, and I will be in touch soon. Bye.